Vrindai Tulsidebhya Vipraya Keshvasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Devi Satyavatai Namo Namaha Panchakalpatarubhishya Pasandadhe Vichakritanam Pavanebhyo Vishnuvibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Charini Nirvisesha Srimad Paschat Deshatani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Shri Gauri Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. So yeah, we will touch upon a few subject matters today, and we'll see if we can cover it. I was unable to because of some computer issues that I was not able to get the exact verses today, which we will speak on. But so we will use the translations rather than the exact verses because that's what I could get. So today we're going to speak about a topic which is, I don't know whether people have understood what the topic was, but basically the topic is like this: lessons for the Lovey-Doveys, okay, or well, I'll just share my screen with you. Okay, can you all see my screen?
No, Prabhu, we can't see.
Okay, I'll just try to see if I can share it with you. How do I share my screen? Okay, share screen. So, can you see the screen now?
Yes, Prabhu, we can see.
Okay. So basically, this word lovey-doveys is basically that refers to what do you call it? Young romantic men, or young romantic people, basically. Everyone, all of us, whenever we are young and just growing up, everyone thinks that he's the smartest kid in the world, or at least they think that they're smarter than their parents, or they normally think that the old people are old-fashioned and they're just outdated. That happens with everyone. And another thing that happens as we grow, as we grow older, is that we, as usual, as the verses say, yuvatinam yatha yunim, yunam cha yuvatan yatha, manave ramate tatvan, maname ramatam tvayi. We all get attracted as we mature into as young beings. We become attracted by the opposite gender very easily. The boys get attracted to the girls, and the girls get attracted to the boys. But the point is that, as we go ahead with life, we realize that it's a very difficult thing to do. We cannot actually understand. We've not been prepared for it. A lot of us have not been prepared. In today's world, there is a difficulty. There is difficulty because we have such terminologies and things that you cannot teach anything to people. People think everything is being taught for everyone. No, it cannot. People have to be taught different things. Different people have to be taught different things, and sometimes you got to be warned of different things. So the issue here is that youth is actually being when we are in our youth, it's one of the most foolish part of our lives. When we are in that phase of life, kashtam cha khalo murkhatvam, foolishness is definitely painful. It's Chanakya Neeti says, kashtam cha khalo yovanam. And there is a lot of kashta even in yogana because actually we don't know. We think we are too bright and too good, but it happens to every one of us. So therefore, it requires that people should be taught about these things. That kashtam cha khalo murkhatvam, kashtam cha khalo yogana. And kashtat kashtataram chaiva paragehe nivashanam. And of course, the most painful activity is to be situated in someone else's house, to be obliged to live in someone else's house. But what I'm taking here is the point that I'm trying to make is that youth is actually is very painful because you really don't know, and you are really enamored by the opposite gender, and you don't know what you're doing, what you're coming, because all of a sudden you start maturing, and people really don't understand what to do with it. All of us have been through this kind of situation. So the Chanakya Neeti or Chanakya, and also not just the Chanakya Neeti, all the scriptures actually direct their teachings a lot to such people, to such young people, to understand that what is coming to you in life. The decisions that you take in life are going to be very, very, very crucial. Everything that you do is going to be crucial. So you just can't jump into things because life is not as easy as it seems. So uh, as we um, as we move towards this, as we move on with life and we become mature, because after the age of maturity, when a young boy becomes matures as a young man, or a young girl matures as a young boy, that's where we will remain. Our activities are different. Now, after a person becomes an adult, there is this different perspective that you look at people with, especially people of the opposite gender. So that is why it is said that, and it is not that everyone is all perfect. They don't. It's not like that. Sharila sharila namanakyam, mautikam na gaje gaje. There is no. There are no rubies in every mountain, and there's no pearl in every elephant's head. Sadhamona is sarvatra. There are no sadhus everywhere. We are all foolish young men who have just come into this material world. Chandanam na vane vane, and there are no sandalwood trees in every forest. In the same way, we are all not born as saints and great people. We all have our own frailties. So young people have to be trained differently. Every person, a boy has to be trained differently, a girl has to be trained differently, and different people with different backgrounds have to be trained differently. So when we see the statements of the Chanakya Neeti or any of the scriptures as such, today's world would say this is, some kind of a, what do you call, a sexist kind of a statement. No, these are not. These are just warnings. These are teachings. These are cautions that people have been given about how to come about in this world. Not that everything that you see is going to be. These are not class statements. These are not generalized statements for everyone. But these are to warn people, to make people cautious of what is going to come to us. So we have in Chanakya says, so therefore wise men should bring up their sons in various moral ways. Putrascha vividhai shilair. They have to be taught shilata. Shilata means putrascha vividhai shilair. Vividhai shilair means in various moral instructions they have to be properly, in proper character building there has to be shilata has to come. Nyujya satatam buddhi. They have to be given knowledge very carefully. Neeti jnana shila sampanna bhavanti kula pujita hai. So if they have been given this knowledge about Neeti, how to behave in this world, or what to do in this world, then they'll actually bring glory to their family. So that is why these shastras are presented. They're given like this, because people have to become cautious of how things are, what things are, where are we going. And therefore, the same verse that I keep repeating all the time, and I love repeating it because Mata Shatru Pita Vairi Yabhyam Balana Pakita Sabhamadhyena Shobhante Hamsamadhyam Bakoyatha. Parents who do not educate their children into the scriptures, Mata Shatru Pita Vairi Yabhyam Balana Patita Patan Patan Jajan Jajan Dana Pratigraha. These are different the 6 activities of a Brahmana. Pathan Pata. Pathan means to read scriptures, and to make others read scriptures. So when you make people read scriptures, then people will understand what is good and bad. Otherwise, where is the understanding of good and bad? Just because someone tells it, writes it? No, because scriptures are very solid information, very good, well tested, thoroughly true, unbiased knowledge for us. Why? Because if you don't teach them, Lalana Bahuvo Doshas, Tadane Bahuvo Gunaha, Tadha Putram Sashishyam Tadayat Natulade. You have to give people good habits. Lalanat Bahuvo Doshas. Lalanat, if you pamper a child, overindulgence, he develops very many bad qualities. And Tadane Bahuvo Gunaha, if you discipline him, then he will get so many good qualities. Tatha Putram Sashishyam. Therefore, a student, a disciple, or a son has to be trained, disciplined, not indulged, because they will develop good qualities. And then, therefore, it is said here, let not a day pass without your learning. Let not even a one day should pass. This is again something I keep repeating all the time. Shlokena vatadardhena tadardhardatvaresh. Abandham divasham kurya dana dhyana karma. So I'm just setting up a background of what is coming. So we just came, let me just go back again. As youth comes, the most painful thing in youth is the lust that comes into the heart. And it gets attracted by so many things in this material world, and then especially the idea of enjoying with the opposite gender. And one becomes, gets involved in a lot of youth. In fact, we have a lot of big problem of drugs, illicit relations, a lot of things that we do in our youth eventually makes a mess of our lives. So one has to be careful when one is in youth, and therefore people have to be trained, and trained in what? Trained in proper ways of doing things, proper moral ways, as how to behave, and that will bring glory to the whole family. So parents have a duty towards their children to actually engage them and teach them the proper things, especially teaching them the scriptures, which will give them the proper knowledge. Okay, so now let's come to some of these. Yeah. So we see here that why do we need to actually train people and how to deal, especially with, in youth, one's head fills up with affection and infatuation for some women or people of the opposite gender, and this is very common. It is not something. But then, if they are not taught what happens, if you're not careful, then one can very easily one doesn't know the consequences of what's coming to them. So therefore, they have to be trained. They have to be told. They have to be explained what is coming to them. Because without that, they will themselves get into trouble. Getting into trouble and getting out of trouble is something which we all have to keep trying what to do. Why? Because as we've been seeing, I think the last time when we were discussing a similar issue here, we talked about how a bad wife or a dushta stri, murkha shishya, foolish, by instructing a foolish Dushta bharya shatam mitram dhrityashchottardayaka sarpe sarpe cha grihe vaso mrityum eva samsaya. If one by chance, because one has to be very careful in choosing one's life partner. And that does not mean that you keep trying this person and that person and finally choose one. That's not the idea. One has to be very careful. Because again, we will see why as we go along. Why it is very, one has to be very careful. Because first and foremost, if one gets a dushta bharya, satam mitram, one gets, or he has to be careful with whom he makes friends with, and whom he keeps as for work under him also. Because Vrittascha Uttaradayaka, if you have a servant who answers back to you, Sasarpesha Grihavasam, you are living in a house where death is certain. So one has to be very careful whom he chooses, whom we choose to actually live with. Murkha Shishyopadeshena Dusta Stri Bharanena Cha Dukkitahi Samprayogena Panditopi Avasidati. They said that even a pandita, even if you are very learned, you think you're very great, you have great knowledge, you will manage everything. Chanakya says that even a pandita, if he makes a hasty decision and gets a wife by some haste, and by some chance she is very wicked, you will come to grief. And what the grief is, you can even death is waiting for you if you're not careful. So one has to be very careful in choosing one's life's partner, whom he wants to marry. It's a very serious thing. But today we are very casual about it. One has to understand that we have to prevent trouble. We cannot. We should not be. We cannot. Some things just can't be cured. Some people think that we can cure certain things. Some diseases may be cured, but if you have a bad partner, you can't cure. Very difficult to cure such trouble. And again, if you actually start getting very serious with a particular person, kanta yoga, sojana pamana, rinasya shesha, kunipasya seva, daridratamsha. So these 6 things, they will actually burn a person even without fire. So how difficult it is to get into all these things, because you can actually get involved with the very person and actually give your heart or whatever, you become very beloved of that person. But then you have to be careful, because if you're separated from them, then we see people committing suicide, people killing themselves, killing others. So many things can happen. So we have to prevent, we don't want trouble. So therefore, Chanakya actually comes up with these statements, not because they want to look down upon women or anything, because there are different kinds of women. Not that every woman is bad, but then one has to be very careful with what one does in life, with whom one associates, with how does. There's another statement here: trees on the riverbank, a woman on another man's house. Kings without counselors go without dove to swift destruction. So this kind of statements are there just to make one understand what are the troubles that one can go through if one is not careful. We do not know, what trouble can come to us if you're not carefully dealing with all these things. So therefore, coming back to this aspect of it, I'll just go to a few more verses. Coming back to this again, a wicked friend, a wicked wife, a false friend, a saucy servant, and living in a house with a servant are nothing but serpent in it are nothing but death. Then again, this very statement is a very common statement, and people actually think it is a sexist statement by Chanakya, but it is not. It's actually it's a training for people. They are trying to tell you, they're trying to actually warn you, they're trying to tell you, they're trying to prevent trouble for us. And because of that, they're saying that don't trust everyone. Why? Because you can't judge a book by its cover. Just because women are beautiful, there is no doubt about it, and they look beautiful, they have sweet voices, and and it is not, unnatural for a young man to get attracted to a young woman. But then that is why Chanakya is saying here, Nadinam Shastrapaninam Nakhinam Shringinam Tatha Vishwasanaiva Kartavyo Strishu Rajakuleshu. So therefore, one has to be careful with one whom with whom one associates, with one whom one tries to have a relationship. He has to be really careful. Just like you don't spend your money on just anything. You judge what you want to spend for. If you want to buy a house, you spend your time trying to find out whether it's a good place, whether the papers are proper, everything, the background is good, everything. You just don't go by the covers of the book. You actually have to check. Do not judge the book by its cover. So one has to find out all these things. Reason for, and it is not that they only filled with bad things. There are also good things there. So therefore, Chanakya again says that he's not making a statement, a blanket statement, but he's saying Nishadapi Amrita Grahyam Amedhatapi Kanchana Nishad api Uttama Vidyam Striratnam Dushkuladapi. So a person may be from a disreputed family, but if they are a Ratna means who? A jewel. If a jewel, who can become a jewel? Especially one who becomes devoted to the Lord, one who has, because in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Padma Puran, just say, there's a verse in which, it's not just a verse, but it is said that one who becomes a devotee of the Lord becomes all good. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarvai gunais tatra samasate sura hara bhaktasya kuto bhakgunan manorathena sati dhavato. But when one person becomes a devotee, then all good qualities come to them. So it doesn't matter if they are even born in a disreputed family. But it is not a blanket statement that they are all bad. But at the same time, there is warning. You have to know what you're dealing with. And don't think, just because the looks are good or they look very soft and very adorable, nice, sweet voice. No, you should know what you're dealing with. Because when you're dealing with women, you're not just dealing with a person because they are, it's not just the hunger is twofold. Because in fact, there is a whole. Let me get into a little science about this. Women normally have a smaller size than men. Okay, that's normally what we see. Even in the families, we see that the mothers are a little smaller than the, smaller in size than the, normally in the family you see the boys and the men are larger in size than the women. But in cases where the women's, the girls, coming to age, or becoming mature, is delayed by some time, or probably delayed by, even if it is delayed by a year or so, you would be surprised that they grow so much more bigger. The sooner they become mature, the earlier they get mature, their bodies actually don't grow so big. And boys grow bigger because they actually mature slightly older. Okay, but that does not mean that they are smaller, because their bodies are actually being developed so that they can actually become mothers. And they will give birth to a lot of people, a lot of children, and a lot of the new generation will come forth for them. So the food that is going into the lady's body is not just for her development; it is to develop her to be able to actually become a mother and give rise to another whole new generation. That's how this world lives. So people normally wrongly think that they are small, so we just need no. So that's what I was saying. Know what you're dealing with. When you're dealing with a woman, it's not that you're just dealing. They have to get nutritious food, very good food. They need actually more food than men, more nutritious food. I'm not just hunger. Is not just in the terms of the kind of quantity that they eat. They need much more nutritious food because they will give rise to the next generation. Okay, so boys who are just lovey-doveys, young, just romantic guys, they should know all these things. That is why we are talking about. This is why Shastra tells us all these things. Shastra explains all these points so that one understands what is he getting into. Strinam Dviguna Haro. Dviguna Haro. Ahara doesn't mean they need much more things to live with because they have to give rise to a next generation. That is their nature. That is they're built that way. Okay. Lajja api chaturguna. And there actually are a safety valve, the valve with which they live, on which they actually survive, which is so important for them, their shyness. Now, the world today actually wants them to get out of their shyness, which is a terrible mistake that is going on. Because shyness keeps them going. Why? Because their daring is sixfold. That's what sahasam sadgunam chaiva. Their daring is sixfold. How do you expect a lady a young girl going over to another house and practically taking over the house? She's got a daring. I don't think a boy has got a daring to go over to another house and take it over. But she has that ability because she'll come there, she becomes a mother, she raises children, she takes over the whole place. Okay, and basically takes over the control of the whole house, and in the next generation, practically the whole thing comes. And their kamas chasta gunai smritaha. So don't just think that they're very soft. No, they also have a lot of what do you call it? Lust. This does not mean what do you call physical lust. They also need their needs are also great because they will give rise to a new generation. Compared to men, they have all these. So you should know what you're dealing with. You can put 10 boys into our bhajan kutir, and they'll be all living there. But you try to put 10 women into that house, I think it'll be quite an issue to deal with that house. So their needs are different. So you have to understand. So young men who are getting all involved and they think it's all nice, just singing nice songs and maybe running around some beautiful gardens, and that's not what you will actually get. You will get these things when you actually get involved with women. So what I'm trying to say is that the Chanakya Neeti and even the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, which also talks about these things, we have to understand these are not simply some sexist statements made just to make some women look down, or no, it is to actually prepare some young men. These were texts which are not actually textbooks. These were books that would help teachers, young Gurukul students, how to a teacher to teaches Gurukul students or students who are just coming to maturity, how to deal with the world. And it depends on the teacher what he should say. These are texts that are general things for him to as a guiding principle. These are not general texts. These are what we call it Vyavaharik texts. So we have to understand that all this is to prepare people for a new generation. Yeah, I mean, you can take the same, but how do you test women? How to test men? There's so much information in this, in our scriptures, so as to help people to understand. Don't be, blinded by what you see. Don't just get carried away by the cover of the book. Understand what is the. You have to see inside the book what is there. We just can't judge what the food is just because the packaging is very good. It's not just needed for that. I mean, we need to get beyond it. So therefore, and especially because this is such an important thing that we all do. We've all been through this. I mean, every one of us go through this, especially young men will always go through it. So they have to actually be aware of what it is. Today, the world is throwing shyness away. They think shyness is not required anymore. We could just, people are all equal. No, no, that is why we are seeing over and over crimes against women growing up again and again. It's the safety of, if it is destroyed, then, and how do you teach her? You cannot teach her back again shyness. You cannot teach a person how to be shy again later on, lajja. It is naturally there in them. So therefore, we have to understand that this should not be destroyed, because that keeps her safe. That is her safety valve. Because of all the other qualities, so these are not just blanket statements to put the person down. No, these are things to be understood, and therefore these need purpose. They have to be taught through parampara how to deal with all these things. Again, there is now again this should not be taken as a blanket statement. Okay, but these are things to be taught. A mother and a father should know these. Therefore, these things are there. This is about, again, Arnatam sahasam maya murkhatvam atilobhita asauchatvam nidrayatvam shrinam doshaha svabhavajaha. Just because they are nice, beautiful, sweet-looking, small girls, and no, you have to understand that. Again, don't be blinded by it. Don't be blind to just see the book by its cover. Chanakya says, no, they will also have these qualities in them. They can be untruthful. They can be rash. Just because they are soft-looking, don't get carried away by it. They can be quite rash. Sahasam Maya says Sahasam, she can be quite reckless. I was just reading, I think, a few days ago, kind of a girl who grew up in India, I think from Chandigarh, happened to go to America, and she all of a sudden became addicted to, I think, gambling and things like that, of kind of Western life. And then she started robbing banks. She's a Punjabi girl from Punjab, Chandigarh, I think, and was robbing banks. So serially, she became a robber. And she is in debt, and she just goes up to banks and just, not just one, she did, I think, 5 or 6 of them. So it's not that they cannot be, they can. Don't misunderstand, don't, underjudge. So therefore, these are that is why this has been given, not to make person look down upon another, gender or anything. It is to make you prepare that you have to be careful. It is not that they are all angels there. Everyone needs training. We don't need to become a blanket. And we see in the Bhagavad Gita also, it does not say that they are bad or anything. No. Mami partha vivashatya yepi shupapa yonaya striyo vaishas tatha shuddhas tepi anti parandati. So it says here, that whoever they may be, even they may be of lower birth, women, vaishyas, shudras, whoever they can be, they all can, approach the supreme destination. They can all approach the supreme destination. There is no question of them not being able to, if they take to the path of, as given in the Bhagavad Gita. So it does not mean that these are training, but training has to be there, and you should know whom you're training and for what. It is not that the men are not untruthful. They are also, but you have to also specifically understand that just because someone looks very nice or beautiful, you can't think that these are not going to be there. So you have to understand that these are things that are also there. There are a lot of other nice instructions that you will see that in the what do you call Chanakya? I haven't put this here. Bhojyam bhojana shaktischa ratir shaktir virangana vibhavo udana shaktischa na alpashtapasa phalam. To maintain a wife, one does not just need to have good looks and some kind of money around. No, you need to be tapasya. You need to have tapasya. You need to have austerity to maintain a family, to maintain, to have good capability to eat good food. You will need to have tapasya. You cannot just think that I will indulge in anything and I will be able to eat good food. I will have good hunger. No, one has to have tapasya for that. So to also have and maintain a wife, you will have to have tapasya. It's not just we're going to have a fantastic life and all kinds of good life. So therefore, the idea is to actually make young men prepare for their life. And therefore, these kind of things as statements are being made here. So if you go to a country where people have no sense of shame, they're shameless. They have no understanding that they should cover their bodies. They should not speak certain things in public. How they should treat people. If they don't have the sense of shame, lajja, if shame is not there, then Chanakya says, don't go to such a country. Then you lose everything. We've seen that. If you go to a country where there is no lajja, where their people have no dread for anybody, they do not fear anybody, there is no proper means of learning any one of these, you're going to a very dangerous place. People will not actually, there's no safety valve in that country. There is no livelihood. There is no, it's been compared to that. If you would not like to go to a country where there is no livelihood, where you cannot earn money. It's a terrible thing to do. Okay. And where there is no control, where there is no good administration, you shouldn't go there either. Where people have no dread for anybody, there is no administration. It's a free for all world. You should not go. At the same time, you can understand that if the people have no sense of shame, there is no safety valve, there is no idea that this should not be done. This is not properly. It should not be done like this. And the same way, one should not go to such a country because you're going to lose everything that you have. Your children are going to become shameless. Your wife is going to be shameless. You slowly everything. Why? Again, because Chanakya says this very beautifully, that if you go to such a place where there is no sense of durachari duradrishtir, where what do you call it? Durachari, people who are of bad behavior, where there is durachari, duradrishti, one who has a very bad vision. Duravashi, very bad environment to live in. Duravashi. If one is, then by this, one will be very quickly ruined. One will be very quickly ruined if one is in such association. So therefore, durachari cha durachari duradrishti duravashi sa durjanaha yan maitre kriyate pumbhir narak sigra vinashyati. If one is associating with people who have no shame, actually, Guru Puran says, Kama Turanam na bhayam na lajja. Kama Tura, those people who are Kama Tura, those who are too lusty, they have no Kama Turanam na bhayam. They have no fear. Some sinful thing will happen. We will go into a bad situation. I'll suffer tomorrow. No such thing. Kama Turanam na bhayam na lajja. Vidya Turanam na sukham na nidra. So Kamatura Vrakti has no shame. So if you're going to live among such people, you will also lose your shame. That is what it is said here. We can see it. We don't need. Chanakya Neeti is basically common sense. Yan maitre kriyate pumbhir narasigra vinashyati. You will actually destroy your family. You will destroy your children. You will destroy your reputation. Everything will be destroyed if you live with people who have no shame. Similarly, people who have no intelligence or charitable disposition. So therefore, one has to know where to go, how to go. You are taking your wife to a shameless place, then everyone will lose their shame. So therefore, one has to be careful where to take whom, what to do. How should one behave in which situation? So therefore, that is why it is said, actually just immediately after this verse, it says, Samana shovate priti, raggi seva sachovate, vinijyam vyavahareshu divya stri shovate grihe. that friendship between equals flourish. Samane shobhate pritihi. Priti means friendship amongst people who are equal flourishes. Rajya seva se shobhate. Service under a king, you get, you flourish. That's why everyone likes to have government service, good government service. Vanjyam vyavahareshu, Vanijyam vyavahareshu, Vanijya depends on how you keep dealing with people, how many people you deal, how many different people you deal. Depending on that, your Vanijya will grow. And Divya Stri Shobhate Grihe. And a beautiful woman, or a Divya, not just beautiful, a Divya, a very, what do you call it, qualified Divya, qualified lady, a very transcendental qualified lady, Stri Shobhate Grihe. They will actually grow and they will actually flourish under protection in the home. Okay, so therefore, what we are trying to say is that these are not just statements to make some people feel bad about. These are statements to help us understand how to deal with these situations. Without these, tell me, any of us, any of our school books, college books, do they teach us anything about these things? How to deal with these issues? How is it? I have to face it. These are facts of life. And if people are not taught about it, this is another one of them. One should save his money against hard times, save his wife at the sacrifice of his riches, but invariably one should save his soul even at the sacrifice of his wife and riches. So one should save his money, definitely. But why? Because if hard times will come, we need to save our money for that. But then, but if it is a question of saving wife or money, no, even at the cost of your money, you should save your wife. But more important than that, that you should save your own soul. So you should not sell yourself to just for some beauty or thing without actually understanding what you're getting. That's what again we're saying. Haste makes waste. Murkha shishya upadeshena dustar stri bharanena va dukkita hi samprayogena panditopi sidati. Panditopi sidati. Because if you're not careful with what you're trying to associate with, you're asking for trouble. So therefore, what we are trying to see here is that how can these books, these scriptures are not simply telling us to, these are not generalized statements. These are to actually prepare the young men and women for life. And if we don't prepare people for life and just, give them some, superficial treatment, education and tell them now go and face with life, this is why we are seeing today what we are seeing today, a collapse of the social structure, a collapse of society, a collapse all around us. Divorce rates are going down. Domestic violence is up. What do you call it? Crimes in the family are up. So many things are coming today. The way things are going today, we are, every person practically, not every person, but a large number of people would actually have to go through a couple of marriages till they actually settle down to something. And breaking a marriage is not fun. Okay, so therefore everyone has to be trained. One should not jump into all these things, and everyone does actually when one gets in their youth. They actually what do you call it? They when the hormones are working up too much, and your brain doesn't work. But we have to understand that we have to use our intelligence to control ourselves and learn what to do, because if you don't, then the world is trouble is waiting for us. And these troubles don't just go away. You cannot cure all these problems. Once you have a bad relationship, you just can't cure it. So before, you have to prevent it. You cannot cure these. Prevention is the only cure in these cases. So therefore, these scriptures that are there are going to help the younger generation. Therefore, Nadinam Shastrapaninam Nakhinam Shringinam Tatha Vishwashanaiva Kartavyo Strishu Rajakuleshu. It's a very famous statement that you cannot believe. You should not put your faith on a river because it's very dangerous. Nadinam Shastrapaninam, a person who's carrying weapons. Don't just be, what do you call it? Don't just believe in them just like that. Shastrapaninam, Shringinam, Nakhinam Shringinam Tatha. Why? Shringinam Tatha. One who has claws, be careful because anytime you can be, we've seen dogs and cats, what they can do with their claws, and especially cats with their claws can really cause havoc. And even dogs and animals with horns, you can't, you have to be careful of these. You can't put your trust on these just like that. You have to be careful. And similarly, also he says, one has to be careful with women and even members of the royal family, because just because they're royal family, great people, a lot of power, be careful. Not just royal family, practically they said that. Vishwasanaiva kartavya Srishu Rajakuleshu. So, those who are moving in political lines, one has to be careful. Because for politics, for power, they may be able to do, they'll switch sides any moment. We may not be able to understand how to deal with it. So therefore, don't just be blinded. Don't judge the book by its cover. Be careful. This is why this training has to be there. We didn't have this opportunity to be actually trained like that. We just went through all these and got hit by these things, and by the time we realized and got bruises and scarred, or most important, you get scarred intellectually, you get scarred emotionally if you don't know how to deal with these issues. So therefore, one has to be careful with what he is doing. One has to be very, very systematically understanding it. Take a careful listen from all these books to actually make advancement. Okay, thank you very much for having me today on this program. And I hope to make some sense of what has been told in the books.
Yeah, thank you, Mādhava, for the beautiful lecture. So it's really inspiring and it's really so much to take for especially youths, especially students in Manipur. And whatever you said, I felt very relevant seeing the condition here. So thank you, Mādhava, for this beautiful, inspiring, enlightening lecture. So now we are open for the questions for another 15 minutes. So whoever have question, either they can chat, they can type it on the chat, or they can directly unmute themselves and then ask Prabhuji directly. So we are open for the questions. Mm,
Looks like everyone's out.
Prabhu,
So we have
actually have a
one question by Pran Govind Prabhu. Prabhu, you can unmute yourself and ask me.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, couple of questions I have.
Yeah.
So regarding the current situation, can you please speak on how important it is to follow a dress code for male and females in order to not to agitate their senses or the mind unnecessarily? Yes, Prabhu. That's first question. I have a couple of more questions if time permits.
Yeah. See, again, the purpose of dressing. What is the purpose of dressing? Why do we need to dress, basically? The purpose of dressing is manifold. One is, of course, to protect ourselves from the weather and weather conditions. Second is to also create a congenial atmosphere, because if society has has no idea what to do. As a present-day society does not know what it is for. People have no purpose in life today. There is no purpose. You're just living like animals. So if there is no purpose in life, then your purpose, the way you wear your clothes have to also have no purpose. Like for example, when you go to office, there is a purpose why you wear a particular dress in a way that you need to wear, right? So the office has a need for that. Why don't you go to office wearing shorts and tennis shoes and just a sleeveless banyan and end up there? Anyway, I'm going to work in office. Why don't you do that? Because there is a reason, because there's a purpose. An office is a place where we are not supposed to, we are going to be professional, and then we are working on a particular project, and we are not supposed to distract one another with something else, right? And therefore we're supposed to be clean, we're supposed to be formal, means our whole dealing is supposed to be formal. So therefore we are dressing in a manner to actually express the activity or the purpose why we are going to office. So in the same way, what is the purpose of you? Therefore, people, when they're simply purposelessly loitering in the streets or purposelessly living in the world, they have no purpose in why they're wearing clothes. So if the only purpose of living is to actually fulfill their lusts, then they will actually wear clothes like that. So the most important thing is that people should understand, not just people, I mean, we have to get people to understand what is the purpose of their life. I remember a very nice incident with Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada had gone to a ranch in, it's called the Morning Star Ranch. I think it's a very interesting ranch, because from that ranch later on, where Prabhupada went, Prabhupada was taken there. This was a ranch run by some hippies, and people, the hippies could come and stay there and do whatever they feel like doing on that ranch. And later on from that ranch, actually, a lot of people came and joined Prabhupada after Prabhupada came and visited that ranch. They included people like Vishnu Chandra Swami, Madhudvisa Maharaj, and Madhudvisa Maharaj, then Tamal Vishnu Maharaj, and a lot of others came from that ranch later on to join the movement. But then the point that I'm trying to make is that Prabhupada went to that farm, and he got out of the car, and Prabhupada was supposed to actually lead the kirtan and give class and things like that. So the person who was running the farm, the Morning Star Ranch, came and drove Prabhupada to the farm, and Prabhupada got out of the farm, and as he got out, he saw people, different people, and they're all kinds of hippies. So there he saw a person who was completely naked, had nothing on his head, he had a long beard, was completely naked, and he was picking potatoes from the farm. So Prabhupada was like, he was saying, he looked at that person, and he said, "What is the purpose of your life?" And he said, he was looking at him, and he said, "What is the purpose of your life?" And this man was, this hippie looked up at Prabhupada, and he started wondering, yes, what is the purpose of my life? Why? I mean, basically Prabhupada was saying, why the hell are you dressing up, doing like this? You're trying to live a natural life or what? And then you have no clothes on. What is it that you're trying to do? What is it? Why you're not dressing up properly, or why you are dressing up properly? For everything, there has to be a proper purpose of life. So all this is a result of actually no purpose of life. Vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidyate. So until and unless people do not have a strong purpose of life, they do not know how to dress, what to eat, what to sleep, when to speak, what to speak. They will have no meaning of life. So dressing and everything comes really from the purpose of life. Without a purpose of life, just trying to kind of rectify their dressing or their behavior is not going to work. We have to give people a strong purpose of life. Therefore, again and again, I will repeat that same verse. Mata shatrur pita vairi yabhyam balana patita sabhamadhyena shobhante bhunsamadhya vakoyata. Father and mother have become enemies if they do not teach their children scriptures. From scriptures, they get purpose of life. Scripture just does not mean, it means they have to first understand what is the purpose of life. Not that everyone can understand scripture. Like, for example, Bhagavad Gita is not meant for everyone. It's meant for people who want to find a solution to the lives or to the anxieties of life. So this is what will bring people to proper sense. Now there is nonsense because there is no sense in why they're living in this world. I don't know if that answers your question a little bit.
Surely, yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hmm.
Vasu Prabhu, I think there is one other devotee.
Yeah.
So
So
he's
there is one
ready to.
devotee named SRD. So probably he can ask the question first, and in case there's time, then Prabhuji can ask a second question. It's okay. So SRD, Prabhu, kindly unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Rangesh. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Pranam.
Yeah, Rangesh.
So my question was pertaining more to, I mean, in general, when we see scripture and even Chanakya Neeti and things like that, as you said, like it can be mistaken for uh, being a little on the sexist side. But my question was also on this, that sometimes, like at least in today's world, we do see women that are capable
Mhm.
and things like that. I mean, in some cases, even more intelligent than men.
Mhm.
So, how would you place, and also with relation to what I was asking, is that most of the advice is from the perspective of a man, correct, for the most part. So, where do we, or how do we identify, uh, that could it be because most of these writings were compiled by men and things like that?
No. You see, the thing is that no, this is not. I mean, yeah, women are capable. Who says they are not? If someone is saying the women are not capable, it's wrong. Women are capable. They are the mothers. Okay, mothers are the first teacher. So the Vedic literatures do not underestimate the role of the mother. The most respectable person, the most respectable position for the society, for human society, is calling someone mother. Today's society is actually trivializing the position of the mother. They are making mother. What are you? You're simply bearing children. What are you? You're not. You don't have anything else to do. See, this is the kind of thing that they're getting. To think that it's a low class thing to actually just give birth to children. You can do more things in the society. No, to build the society is the most important thing to do. To build up, and society is built up when children are properly trained up. Their role in actually the smallest unit of a society is a family. So when the family is not taken care of, the society, no matter whatever you do in the society, how much earnings you make in the society, it is going to go to hell, because the society is not being taken care of. The young people have to be given moral education. Morality comes from mother. Okay, whom do you trust most in your family? I mean, when you are in trouble, where do you actually turn to? To your mother. So this present day society without a purpose is simply making, because it is an industrial society, a society which industry is promoting, the education is being promoted by industries. And secondly, this whole concept of, all of a sudden making a class struggle, identity politics is a part of the neo-Marxist philosophy, where there's only two classes in this Marxist philosophy. And what are they? One is an oppressed class and one is an oppressor class. And here, whoever is a little stronger becomes the oppressor and the other person becomes an oppressed. And it is the Marxist philosophy that you always have to support the oppressed. And this is what is going on. You're creating, even in a family, did you ever oppress your mother or your sister? Then where is the oppression coming? I never did that. Rather, I was beaten by my mother quite a few times. Where is the oppression? But the point is that this oppressor-oppressed politics they're taking it too far. It's too much of a materialistic idea to bring it to the family level and bring that kind of identity politics into a family, into society. That now women are separate and they've been oppressed. We didn't oppress anyone. So this concept of patriarchy and men, no, this Chanakya Neeti has plenty of verses for women and men as well. It is said here very clearly which men are foolish, which men you should know how to behave. A lot of things are there in this thing. There's enough. There's enough both in the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad. Enough is being told there. In fact, I won't say there is more for men rather than women. So, but the point is that we have to understand that men do get carried away by a beautiful woman. So he has to be told about that also. It's not just, don't just judge a book by its cover. See, there are different kinds of women. So therefore you have to learn how to deal with it in a different way. Okay, I don't know if that answers some part of your question.
Yes, bro. I mean, I think more importantly, I think what is probably missing for people who are newly reading any of these things is that they don't try to take into account the context of what is spoken when. At least that's what my understanding is. Would that be correct?
The modern
bro?
society, yes. The modern society is too industrial and it is a factory driven, it's factory education. And they think success is actually getting more money. No, Vedic society was actually to build social peace and tranquility, which is the missing factor today. Okay?
Yes, bro. Thank you.
So yeah, we have time for one last question. We have 5 minutes. So Adi Guru Prabhu in between raised his hand. So if Prabhuji has any question, otherwise
Hare
Aurobindo
Krishna.
Prabhu. Okay,
Hare Krishna
Adi
Prabhuji.
Guru Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavas Pranam. Prabhuji, regarding, I'll just add one more question to the same discussion. And I was reading in one of the lectures Prabhupada gave. So Prabhupada was talking to a women reporter, and also on different lecture Prabhupada has mentioned that the brain size of women is smaller than the brain size of a man, and that it becomes little difficult to digest by us also. And when we speak the same to a modern somebody, that is also that it is little difficult to digest, and to Prabhupada gives many comment. He has mentioned this on many of his lectures.
Yeah, you have to be actually, I mean, I've actually gone through this whole thing and tried to find out what Prabhupada was saying and why was he saying that. Thank you for that question. It was a good question. You see, I'll tell you what. Prabhupada is telling about the size of the brain of the woman. Now, he's not saying that as his comment. Okay. He said that he was a student of psychology in Scottish Church College. Okay. And in Scottish Church College at that time, he had, I think, Professor Quihart or something like that, someone like that, who was his teacher there, who was a respectable professor and probably the head of the department at that time of that college. And he had said at that time, the science was saying that the size of the brain of a woman is less than that of a man. Okay. He said, look, I am not telling, he said, I have heard this from my professors, so I'm telling you this. This is what your science has been talking about. Okay, we are not trying to say that this is. So what Prabhupada was trying to say was that this is what your science, or this is what I was taught in college.
Okay.
So if you go into his things wherever he has said that, you will see he'll refer to a Scottish Church teacher on psychology who told him that just like today. We all talk about the protons and the neutrons and the electrons, what do you call it, whizzing around the proton and neutron. But is that true?
Yes, sir.
It's not true. No one has ever seen that. It's only a, what do you call it? It's a Walt Disney atom. It's a Disneyland atom. That is why we came up with the wave theory, the quantum mechanics and the wave theory. Because no one knows whether actually there's an electron or a proton or not. I mean, we assumed a lot of things, a lot of assumptions were going on, a lot of calculations were there to kind of understand that maybe that's how it's working. And there were a lot of theories behind it. But it's not a proven thing. Okay, so Prabhupada said this on the basis of Professor Quihart and the science at that time. So he said, I was told like this. This is what is being told. And anyway, one more, just to kind of give you another thing on it. We think that we have got the greatest amount of DNA, and I know we have a lot of our genome, the human genome is greatly numbered and this and that. But what has recent, I mean, that was what I was taught actually. When I was in university, I was taught, yeah, the human DNA is the largest DNA, and things like that. But today we have find out that, a fruit fly has about 15,000 genomes, I mean, in genetic codes or genome, yeah, the human genome is about 20,000. That of a fruit fly is about 15,000, and a flea is 30,000. So they have much more genomes than we have. After the whole Human Genome Project has come, that we are nowhere close to a lot of, we have much less genomes than a lot of other microorganisms, even the smaller organisms. The flea has much more genomes than we have. So these are all a shifting sand of science. This science, empirical science, is always shifting. So this is why Robert always tells that you can't depend on the science. There's, for every argument there's another one.
Yes, bro. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So I think with this we come to an end of our session. Probably we have a few more questions left. So I request the devotees to kindly send the question to BYS or one of me. They can send. So probably if Prabhuji is okay, I can mail you Prabhuji those questions, and
Yeah.
if you want, Prabhuji can answer, and we can distribute it among the groups. So Prabhuji, with this, we are coming to our end of our session. So I thank Prabhuji Mādhava Prabhu for his wonderful class, very applicable, especially for those who are in this age, in Manipal especially. And we have students here in Bhajan Kutir and many devotees online. So I'm sure they'll be benefited. So thank you, Prabhuji, and I request you to kindly give us more of your association so that we can hear and we can clear our mind with all those impressions or misconception which is built in a society. So with this, I'll thank Mādhava Prabhu for his wonderful class. And now we'll have Aarti in a couple of minutes. So special announcement like today morning, as many of you have attended, we have installed new Gaurnitai deities, or Haripat Prabhu named them Shri Shri Nitai Gaur Pranam. So we'll having their aarti in couple of minutes. So I request for everyone to kindly take their darshan and attend their aarti. And those who can come, they can come to Bhajan Kutir and Anu Prasad after that. So with this, we'll begin our aarti.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.